in the last couple of days, we have talked about conscious communication, all of the senses, chakras, and now we're on to elements or shapeshifting. So we know that we have earth, fire, water, and air. And there's ether, but we're just focusing on those 4 elements for today. So the characteristics of earth is solid. It's a form, so wood, metal. We have earth, where am I to here? Liquid. So that's obviously fluid and it can move around and it will fill a container. And then we have fire, and it has because it has like a temperature to it, like a solid temperature of like it's hot, then it's kind of like a funnel for electricity in some sense. And then we have air, which is obviously there's a lot more space in between the particles, and it's harder to contain like a gas. You have to put a lot of pressure in order to contain it. So we know that everything on the planet, everything on Earth is made up of these 4 elements. And when we move into learning how to shapeshift in the astral world or in different worlds, which we'll get into later, it becomes like a really good foundation of how to move when you're doing the shapeshifting work. So when do you use these elements and why are they important? So the whole point of this whole masterclass thing, the whole point of the whole program is for you to increase your intuitive abilities so that you can help yourself and help others. So I know when I started doing Reiki, I was kind of just trying to funneling through and I wasn't connected to the chakras. Like I was connected to the chakras, but I didn't have like a full understanding or a full understanding of the elements, and I was still learning and building those relationships. But then it came to a point where I started using those elements in the session. So something cool happened one time where I was, in the astral space looking around in this person's belly, and I had to bring in an element. It just like started to happen. So the essence or the energy of the fire element came down through the body, and it would split off at the heart like the Reiki energy would. It comes down through the hands, and then I was like Dragon Ball Z with fire coming out of my hands in the astral world inside of this person's being. So I'm using the fire to help things like burn up and move away. And then I had to call in a new element. So I called in air. So it was like a wind, and I would physically like blow into the space with that deep intention of moving those things out of the space. And then it was just like, okay, well, let's wash up in here. So we call in that water element, and it was kind of like what I was seeing in the astral space that was overlaid with this reality. It was just like the room filled with water and washed away any residue. And then, we pat in some earth in there and we plant some new seeds. So it's like a very playful way of cleaning out the body. So you can use the elements in that way. Alrighty. So it's relationship to chakras. So the elements have a relationship with the chakras in the sense of the root is obviously very earthy. We always connect earth with root. We connect sacral with water because the emotions and the flow. We connect our solar with fire, so our will and our in that movement. So when we are connecting to different spaces, trying to develop our intuitive map that we've been talking about for the last couple of days, it's like so important that we understand the connections between all these different energies and all these different things that we're placing inside, so that we know how to pull and move as we need to when we are working in these different realms. And I know that I keep saying realms and dimensions and all these sorts of things. It will make more sense once you do the meditations and do those sorts of things, because it's a world that creates itself when you close your eyes, when you set that intention, and it just becomes like this dream state that you're able to fall into at any point when you want to. All right, so the fun part, shape shifting. So there's two ways of shape shifting. So the first one is you get to choose what you want to shape shift in, like merge into. So for example, if you are a Reiki practitioner and you know that the person that's on your table has like resistance between like animals and nature because of bad experience or a trauma. So there's a journey that you guys need to go on to in order to heal that relationship in some capacity. So the person's on the table, they're knocked out, and when we like connect with the astral space, it's like we are connecting to that world and they're connecting to that world, whether they think that they are or not. And you'll notice that like, I went on a big journey and I was climbing mountains and I was swimming in lakes and I saw all these things. Like they're describing a whole other world of experience, and they're just tapping into a different realm of where they're operating in. So if you can consciously, intentionally choose to be in that space as well with them, then that's when you choose to do the shape-shifting work. So you can see in the astral space, when you're doing this healing work, they're moving along and they're going through this storyline, but you're watching this storyline from a different perspective. And then just picture like it's a land and they're walking down, I don't know, some trail, and you're the healer in that space observing them, not sure, like maybe they don't really notice that you're there. So then we move closer to them and maybe shaped into a bear or into a wolf. And when we are shape-shifting, we have to ask that being or the entity if that's okay that we do that, because we never want to shape-shift with the intention of trying to prove something or to impress or do harm. It's like we are using it to learn about ourselves and to help other people. So you shape-shifted into a wolf, and in this storyline it seems like maybe like 3 years you guys are in there running through the woods, and it just seems really fast, and you build this relationship and you fall in the lake and it saves you. Like it's a whole thing. But in real 3D reality, maybe it's only been like an hour, but there's such intensity with that storyline, and because they've experienced that in the energy space with you, shape-shifted into the animal because that's what they needed, then that echoes into the emotional, into the mental, and eventually into the physical body. So you help the healing process with that trauma with animals. All right, and then, so why do we even want to do this? So the main reason we want to like start practicing this shape-shifting, learning how to become different elements or become different beings or become different animals in these different worlds, is because it allows us to connect deeper with ourselves. So just a great example would be if you could just like hop into your best friend's body real quick for like a month, and you were able to feel the essence of their radiance and their imagination and their creative nature and their emotions and their capabilities and their skills. Imagine you could just like feel everything about them in a space. It's like you would be very wowed at what you felt, and then you're probably thinking like, how come they're not doing this, or why do they feel like that way? It doesn't reflect on like what they're actually capable of. So then when you shapeshift back into your own space, then it's like you're gonna have a greater appreciation for yourself, because it's just like you're gonna have a greater understanding of like, oh, like there's so much that I have, and it's just been this chatter that's been stuck here that hasn't allowed me to fully expand. And you're detaching from your own body, so you're allowing yourself to like go on a different journey without this 3D reality. So you're not continuously anchoring the depression or thought processes. You're allowing that freedom in a different space. All right. The next thing that we're gonna go into, All right. Oh, so how do we even do it? How do we shapeshift Mariah? So we want to set the intention with our gut, with our solar plexus. We need the power in our solar plexus to make a great intention in order to do this work, because if we don't have the will, then we're going to have a lot of doubt, and doubt drains the body. With every doubt thought that you have, it drains 30% of your energy. So imagine you're just like doubting all day. You're not going to be able to do anything because you're just draining yourself with those thought forms. So we need the solar plexus to be very powerful in order for us to have the stability and the will to take on those different beings, on those different animals, because you're in a different place. So it's not always going to be like, you know, you're going to be going on some crazy adventures, and you're going to need that grit in some space in order to learn what that entity is learning, or what that entity wants to teach you. So we talked about how you're like shapeshifting into, but it's like if you merge with, let's use a wolf for example, and you're in this space. If you were going to look in a mirror in this reality, you would get the essence of you and the essence of the wolf. It's like this perfect merging, but you can feel both in there. And then there's like this other version of like a metaphorsis of when you're merging. So it's like you and the wolf come together, and you like intertwine so intelligently and in a complex way that the result is like something pure and something totally different. So you wouldn't recognize the parts. So a real 3D example would be like when you have a kid with your partner, you get the essence of the father and the mother, and it's like, whoa, you look exactly the same as your mom and your dad. How does that work? So it's like that. And then an example of something where it's just like a pure essence. It's like, this is a really weird example, but it's like when you make your own little bean burgers, it's like you're mashing everything. All of the ingredients are mashed so well that you can't tell the difference of that's a bean or that's a carrot. Like it's just one entity. So when you are setting this intention, you have to choose whether you want to see through the eyes of the entity or being or animal, or if you want to like fully immerse and like actually forget about like the human viewpoints, perspectives, because you are taking on a totally different way of being. So you're going to learn a lot about that type of entity or animal because you're seeing it through its eyes. It's going to be totally different than if you read about it or observed it. It's like you're in it. So then you can learn so much and take those understandings and integrate them into this reality. All right. The next thing that we are going to be talking about. Anyway, if you have any questions, please let me know. And this whole camera thing is really freaking me out because I had to flip it, but we're fine. All right, let's see. All right, so I'm all about those transferring of skills. So we are capable of taking, say we get really good at math, like the problem, like at basis it's just problem solving. So we can copy and we can paste it on something else that we want to work on within our lives. And this copy and paste transferring skill things also works with our senses. So I think on Tuesday we talked about how we need to open up all the different senses so they can communicate with each other. So another perspective would be if you took, say you're really good at seeing, but like the information that's coming through needs to be sound. It's like you can feel that it's kind of sound, but it's not translating, you can't digest it. So you can like shape shift that energy into something that you can see. So it's a different way of making things work for you so that you're not searching and not spending so much time on what does it mean. It's just like when you allow it to come and shape shift it in the way that you learn, then it's like it comes in very natural, and it's like an immediate answer. because we're getting information all the time. And we think if it's super simple, then it's not correct, because we need to be, going through some challenges in order to get the right information. But that doesn't have to be the case. It's like this simple answer that comes through, like run with that. It doesn't have to be so complicated. What else do we got here? Oh, another cool thing is the idea of like shape shifting, but back and forth. So you have laid on the ground, you're playing your drums, and you've pictured some sort of hole. So whether it's like a hole in a tree trunk, or you can remember some sort of opening when you're a kid, so maybe underneath the stairs. You're using this familiar opening as a safe space for you to go into these different worlds and to come back. This is where we do the shape-shifting work. So we have the drums in the background, so sort of like a shamanic ceremony. So we go through these different holes with the intention, and we allow the storyline or what the space looks like to unfold in front of us. Because I think we did this like, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, where I played the drums and then you guys laid down and you told me what you saw. It creates itself. So it's like you're allowing this new space to create itself, and then you have the willpower and the focus and the concentration to then ask to shapeshift within that world. So it's like you're experiencing yourself as a human in this astral space that you're entering in. But then on top of that, because of your clarity and your ability, you're able to then shapeshift into whatever you ask and learn and go on that journey in that body, in that form. Yeah. Any questions so far? I feel like I'm just like whacking ya with information. When I started like doing this work, it felt very foreign, and it felt like it was like something that I shouldn't do. It felt like it was like bad, because you start to, like, I keep talking about the astral world, but you start to go into astral world, but then you experience different levels of worlds. So there's like upper world, middle world, lower world, but then there's all these different dimensions, and there's things all over the place, and you start to dip into different places that you're not sure if you're like allowed. And one of the first places that I journeyed into was this underworld. It's not like dark and scary and there's demons. It's not like that. It's just like, it's kind of where like a pack of my ancestors sort of hang out, and everything's very earthy, and they're like have mud on their bodies, and they taught me magic, and they give me like little potions and little spells and different instruments and different tools to use in my healing. So they teach me, they give me different sound things to use, and I take that knowledge, come back, and then I use it in a session. So it's like, not only do you have to like learn how to, be comfortable allowing that space to form in your mind and to grow, and also learn how to shape shift into whatever, you also have to like be okay with going into wherever the mind or the universe or your higher self wants you to go to learn. And we always have to come back with like, I'm in this physical reality, like on the daily, the usual, and like just use that as like, if you ever get afraid, just realize like it's gonna be okay, like it's gonna be fine. I'm learning something, and I always can clear out anything that attached or I didn't want or whatever. Yeah, what's our time like here? Because I feel like I'm running through this real quick. Let's see, what else we got? All right, yes. One of the things that I want to mention is that we never want to use this ceremony of journeying and turning in different elements and beings in something that we're trying to escape. So a lot of people do a lot of spiritual work in order to escape the lives that we're in, but the whole point of journeying past this space is for us to learn and bring things and integrate. So you ever find like everything in my life is not going the way I want and I'm just gonna like journey and figure some stuff out, then that's probably not the best time. We need to do it when we're feeling stable and clear and empowered. Yeah. Any questions? I think that's pretty much all I got for today's masterclass. Just like the basics of elements and how you can use them to shapeshift. Because if you have an understanding of earth is grounding, and I can use fire in certain ways, and I can use wind in different ways and overlap it with my healings and how it works with the chakras, then you're gonna have this like really large toolbox that is intermingled and can work together. And then how does this all connect to the intuitive map? So when I was downloading this information and thinking about how to, connect the whole thing, this idea of when we connect to these different places, we can bring this map with us. It's not just something where we're in the physical world, we close our eyes and it's there. It's like we can roll it up, have it in our hand and start walking around, and then you can like open it in these worlds, show it to different beings, like ask questions. It's like you're in this like game sort of, and you're gonna learn new things, meet new things, and you can add to this map. And this map with the different layers of chakras and elements and colors and entities, it's like you're gonna learn something new and then you can add it. So you're continuously growing this thing in your mind, and you can draw it in real life and create that as well.